I'm your host, Felipe Rose, and welcome to the Disco Chronicles and Beyond. This podcast is about the disco era, the music, the culture, and the impact it's had on the world today, and why disco is still so hot. After successfully touring the world for over 4 decades as one of the original co-founders and members of the world-famous Village People, selling over 100 million records, this disco king truly knows a thing or two about the disco era. So sit back and relax and enjoy my conversation with my guest today. Everyone, hello. Welcome to the Disco Chronicles. I'm Felipe Rose, your host for today. Yeah, I love this DJ's music, who I'm going to interview today. Matter of fact, let's bring him in the room right now.
Yeah, thank God my son was here.
Hey, buddy.
Yeah, man. No, hey, they're the new generation, man. They know these things.
That's their world.
Yeah, man. How's it going, man?
We're just a squirrel trying to get a nut.
You ain't lying. I mean, I look young, but I'm 56, so I'm trying to figure it out. He came over here like in 10 minutes. He's like, boom, done. Incredible. Good. All right. Apaza Entertainment. Yes.
Without a problem that I can't fix.
All right.
I do it in a mix.
That's right. Last night a DJ saved my life. That's my song, man.
And away goes trouble down the drain.
There you go.
I've always loved that song. Last night a DJ saved my life.
Great song.
I felt that, growing up and running the clubs, and I lived the life of the clubs. And
yes.
then like Madonna's story is not new to me because I was like that.
Okay.
I was in the club.
Well, you came before her, obviously. I mean, you was doing stuff. You was doing stuff like that years before her. So yeah.
But I see how people talk about her trajectory in her how she started. And the thing is that I started that same way. It was being at a club where a French producer saw me, and then he saw me again, and I was like, celebrating myself, being beautiful, long hair, biracial, gay. That was a lot right there to deal with. And he saw something very different. He said,
okay,
you got something going on here, and I want to take that what you're presenting, and I want to create a group, and then the rest is history.
Yeah, well, I actually know Madonna from way back. One of my mentors was Jelly Benitez, and he was the resident DJ at the Funhouse. So I remember her before she even came out with her first song that he actually produced. So we actually hung out in the backstage. They had the little backstage back there, right next to the clown. He come with a little hole from the DJ booth, and he had the little sofas. So we hanged out there with her before she became famous. So I remember, you're actually right. It started out with just the vibe, and she'd been in the right place at the right time and with the right people.
But the thing is that what you need to do is that if you really want, and you're hungry and you want to make it, you got to stick with it, and you got to really believe that that is the only thing that's important to you in the world, and then people will gravitate to that light. You got to keep that light bright, and that's what attracted me to you during the pandemic. Because I mean, I wanted to, I bop to clubs, I dip it, because I love to dance, and but who doesn't? So here we are, we were locked down.
Yeah.
And then I found you on Instagram, and then I found you on Facebook.
Yeah.
Then I couldn't believe the music that you were mixing. It wasn't like, because you do disco so well, and we're gonna talk about that.
Yes.
Your mixes are very well thought out, and they take you on a journey.
You're exactly right. When I do my mixes, that's what I'm trying to tell a story. So you're absolutely right. I just don't play one song after the other. It's a feeling that you kind of a vibe that I create. So you're right about that.
Then I realized as I kept tuning in, because I found you on a disco night. Ladies and gentlemen, I am speaking to DJ Apaza. Oh, Dennis. Okay, what's your son's name?
Little Dennis.
Okay, so little Dennis that was playing Imagine
Yes, correct.
by John
That's
Lennon.
him. That's
I
it.
want to go up to the Bronx and I want him to play that and I want to sing.
Oh wow. Well, we actually in Atlanta right now. We're not in the Bronx.
Oh, you're not
So
so that's
no, we're in Atlanta right now. Yeah, but yeah, he'd be more than happy to do it for you. I've been teaching him to play piano since he was a kid, about
Oh, so
five,
you
6 years
guys
old.
live, you
He's
guys
he's
live
been great at it. Yeah,
you
he's
live
he's
in
a, he's a
Atlanta.
blessing.
You live in Atlanta.
Yes, I'm originally from the Bronx. I'm originally from the Bronx, but moved to
Right.
Atlanta years ago. And in my business here, the reason why it exploded is because I came at the right time, to Atlanta, and Apaza Entertainment. Pretty much, I started doing shows, Latin shows that people didn't do here in Atlanta, and that's how pretty much everything started for me.
But the thing that I discovered about you when we were in lockdown, there were a lot of DJs that I was finding a lot of DJs on social media, especially on Twitch. And then a friend of mine said, "Oh man, you like my mixes? You got to check out
DJ
uh,
Apaza, yeah,
Apaza. You got to check him out
yeah,
because he's consistent in disco, but he gives you other things." So I kept tuning in, and not only were you doing disco really well, you were doing funk really well.
yeah,
Evenings of funk, evenings of soul, evenings of R&B, then freestyle. Because right now we're in a freestyle mode this
correct,
month. We just
yes,
had yet on today's show, Will Valentine of
okay,
Artistic Records,
okay,
and then hopefully we'll be getting Tony Moran, who had just had a number 1 hit on iTunes with "Hurt So Bad" freestyle.
awesome.
Freestyle is making a comeback. But then I watched you one evening, and you went from rock, then you jumped to Spanish mixes for the rest of the night. And
Correct.
I was like, okay, like I'm too drunk because I was doing tequila. It must have been on a Saturday night, and
Uh-huh.
I had a friend over, so we had you playing live, and we
Wow.
blasted, we blasted, but then you left the rock, and you did a couple of shout outs and people that were on the page with you, and then you went into Spanish mixes, and I kind of thought, okay, now that I'm tipsy on tequila, what do I do with this? I love Spanish. I just wasn't. You threw me in the mood. Let's just put it that way.
Okay. Awesome.
So tell me about. Let's tell. I want our listeners to know about you and to know where to find you because you are really amazing at what you do. Yeah, I see that you actually do spin on turntables.
Oh yes, I'm an old school DJ.
Which which is what I loved when I was
Yep.
watching you. That's what
Yes.
also gravitated and kept me locked in. And then the amount of records that you have. I have a picture of you where you are just going through crates on crates of. I don't know if they can see that there.
Yeah.
We'll
That's
put
only
it
a
up.
small. That's only a small portion. That's the one
We'll
I
put
keep
it
up
up.
here in my office. I still got some more in the basement. So yeah, I have thousands of records I compiled in over 30, 40 years. So yeah, I got
Right.
lots of records.
Now the thing is, so tell us about when did you start? When did you become a DJ?
Well, yeah, like I said, I'm originally from New York. I'm from the Bronx, and I was raised during the 70s and 80s. Back in the South Bronx. Back then it was Candela. That era in the 70s and 80s in the Bronx, it was wild. So, and I was raised with my aunt and my uncle was from Bayamon, Puerto Rico.
Wow,
So
that's
all I
amazing.
heard in the house was Spanish music.
Got
Salsa,
it.
guaguancó, charanga. So this is my first exposure to music was, the Spanish music that he played. And in my neighborhood, it's a mixture of Hispanics and blacks. So you heard either the salsa music or you heard Motown from the black, people there. So it was a mixture of both. So, I got into both musics actually as a young kid. but more gravitating more to the salsa music because that's what was playing until
Right.
disco exploded. Once disco came to the scene, it just blew up, especially
So,
New York.
so how old were you? How old were you
I
when
was
that?
a preteen. When the disco hit, I was probably 11, 12, 13. I was a preteen. So I was there. I was right there. I was too young to go to the clubs, but I was young enough to go and listen to the music and party and get the experience. I got my actual DJ from the neighborhood DJ called DJ Bobby, who was my first mentor. He was the neighborhood DJ. So, I hanged out with him, became like his little roadie guy and helped him with carrying the crates and the equipment. So, he was the first one to actually let me touch some turntables. And that's when I was like probably maybe 12, 13, 14, that era. And he's the one that actually introduced me to the disco music and the club music that you didn't hear in the radio.
What was that like? What was that like for you as a young boy like that to be experiencing disco and living it as it was coming out, as the music was? Because I mean,
I've never seen nothing like that in my life. The impact that disco had in New York, especially in my neighborhood, it not only changed music, but it changed fashion. It changed the way people talk, the way people walk, the way people dance. And also very important also that I want to say in my neighborhood. Before disco, you had, black folks with their Motown, Spanish folks with the South. So they did their own thing.
You can talk like that because I'm from Brownsville, Brooklyn.
I'm from New York, so people know that's not racist at all. I'm talking about, this is the way we talk.
Exactly.
But when disco came, it actually combined both. It actually made both people like come together because now the Spanish and the blacks, they like disco. So now everybody jammed together. So it kind of combined, it kind of made the neighborhood a better place because now everybody has something in common. They love disco music. So now they started partying together. They started hanging out together, going to clubs together because they had something in common. So disco actually brought my neighborhood together.
Disco was a melting pot that brought all styles,
oh my God, it did.
all types of people together.
Yes, Absolutely. It did. And I seen that in my neighborhood, so it was awesome to see that disco did that, and people partying, and it changed everything in my neighborhood. Disco just exploded and it took over to a point that it got saturated and people got tired later on. But in the beginning, it was awesome.
Now Apaza Entertainment. Now you're also producing, right?
Yes. Well, let me tell you the story of the name Apaza. I got that from my grandfather's. My grandfather's last name is Apaza. He's a World War II hero, so I use his name to honor him. So I figured when I chose my DJ name, I said, you know what, I'm gonna use my grandfather's name.
That's great.
People could every time they say the name Apaza, it'll remind me of my grandfather, and it's been successful. I've been using it for 40 years. That name. So, but anyway, it started. Apaza Entertainment started as me mixing mixtapes. Remember the 90s? Everybody was doing mixtapes. And then it became CDs. CDs became a thing now.
I used to actually mix songs onto a cassette.
Yes.
And then I can't remember how I did that. I guess I must have had 2 cassette players. I know that I used to make cassette tapes, and I still have them. And I wanted to hear my kind of music and all different styles. And I remember having a cassette or several that I would play in my car, or go to somebody's house and pop in a cassette.
Yeah, it was very popular back then. Yeah, it was huge back then. I mean, everybody was doing it. So I got into that. And then eventually I transitioned to CDs because then, we had CD burners now. So we could actually do mixtapes on CDs. And that became even more popular because it was digital. It wasn't analog anymore. The sound was digital. It sounded better. So it became popular. I sold a lot of those CDs, and then that's when I actually officially started my company, Apaza Entertainment, back in 1999, I believe. And, and then from there, a couple of years after that, I moved to Atlanta. And when I moved to Atlanta, it kind of changed a little because then I started doing more production. I opened up a home studio in my house and I started doing recordings and production for the local artists in the area. And then I got more into promotion. Because
there are a lot of artists down in Atlanta.
Yes, absolutely.
Atlanta is a big music hub.
Yes, it is. all type of music. You'd be surprised. All types of music come from Atlanta. So I kind of came in the right time. And then I noticed that it was a void for Spanish music, talent, and concerts and artists in Atlanta. It was a lot. It was a big Hispanic community, but they weren't doing shows. So I transitioned from like doing DJ sets and doing CDs to actually saying, I'm gonna start promoting events. And boy, that actually took it to the next level, because I seen the people, the Hispanic community in Atlanta just came together and just pretty much supported everything I did in the beginning. So it was great. It was awesome, the support I got.
It's interesting because when I found you, I didn't really have a location on you, because every time I would find you, I found you either playing live, so I really didn't know where you were transmitting from. Where, I thought, because of the name Apaza, DJ Apaza, I thought that you were in South America.
No. That's because I'm,
Because
like I said,
I said, what country
yeah,
are you
no.
in? You're like, dude, I'm not in a country.
No, I'm a New Yorker. Yeah, it's just I used my grandfather's name from my mother's side, like I said, because he was a World War II, so I used his name. But I think that's a South American name. People tell me that. But yeah, that's it's got nothing to do with that. So yeah, I'm original. I'm in Atlanta. So basically, when you found me, I'm was in Atlanta doing the shows and doing the mix and all that here in the U.S.
Okay, now I know you love disco because it's obvious.
Oh, yes.
I mean, you
Yes.
start you start one of your entertainment pages with one of my favorite songs. Last night, the DJ saved my life. But what other disco songs really like shaped and molded you that you felt?
The first album I ever purchased. I mean, I was a kid. Disco exploded.
This is what I love. I love hearing this. I want to hear
and the movie, remember Saturday Night Fever came out,
Yes.
and before then the record came out, the soundtrack. And I was a kid, poor, living in South Bronx, poor. And back then you go to the supermarkets and you was able to kind of be a bag boy for tips. The manager would the manager would say, you talk to the manager. He said, if you behave, I'll let you stay here and you bag it, and then you get the tip. So I worked my behind off for like weeks, man, trying to get enough money to go purchase my first album, which was the soundtrack. And that changed my life. That record changed my life. I wore the grooves of that record. I learned how to dance with that record. I learned how to dress with that record. I learned how to act a certain way with that. I mean, it changed me totally.
It was a beautiful album. Actually, it was the music that really pushed the movie to make it a hit.
Absolutely.
Because if the movie, and I'm speaking only because it's just from what I know, from experience, what I've read, and what I know about in the business, if the movie would have been released today without that soundtrack, it would never have made it. The music. The soundtrack carried the movie.
Correct. Absolutely.
The script was actually very racist, homophobic, misogynistic, but it was that era that they were trying to capture that feeling and that place in Brooklyn with the Italians and running the club. So that was a small segment of what they focused on in the movie, but in overall, the disco movement was glamorous, was amazing.
Let me tell you something. I know you into Studio 54. I'm pretty sure you have stories of Studio 54. I wish I was a fly on the wall when back then. I was too young to go. I actually got to go on 82 when they reopened on the new management.
They reopened in 82.
Yeah, I actually got to go there because I was old enough to go. So I actually got to see it, but I didn't go during their heydays. So a lot of people. Yeah, they talked about Studio 54, but
you're the first generation after it reopened.
Yes, correct.
You're the first generation.
Yeah, but I remember doing that era of Studio 54 and Saturday Night Fever. That wasn't Studio 54 was a club to go to be seen. A lot of people that are New Yorkers always think that was the disco club in New York, but that really wasn't the disco club in New York. The disco club in New York back then for the New Yorkers was called Starship on 42nd Street and 8th Avenue, right across from the Port Authority building. Remember
I
Starship? The
remember
club
Starship, and
that was the club where actually the New York, the dancers that I knew in my neighborhood went to like dance, and the stories out of that club. I mean, they don't give that club a lot of props for actually creating
actually,
the
you're right
movement that
about
it
that.
created
Yeah,
in
you're
New
right.
York back then.
Yeah, you're right about that. Starship was big.
Oh
It
yes,
was on 46 on 42nd,
42nd and 8th, right
42nd
across from the Auditorium building. Yep,
on the left hand side.
correct.
Yeah, yeah, I remember it. The thing is that when I was not only going and working at Studio 54 before the group and then during the group, I would then I stopped going to Studio 54 in the heyday because I then became famous. So it was very difficult to get in. I would get in through the 53rd Street entrance because I used to work there. So you know that how to get through the back. But once I was in there, it was nice. I mean, I chilled out. I don't remember taking a lot of pictures with a lot of people because I felt like that I wanted to be alone when I wasn't on stage. And so I felt the same way about other people, like, say, Andy Warhol. I was with a group of people. He was taking pictures, and for some reason, I said to him, "Give me your camera. Let me take a picture of you. You go with them." And I took a picture of him, and I gave him the camera back, and he looked at me. He said, "No one's ever taken a picture of me with my own camera." Not
Wow,
me. He was photographed a
wow,
lot.
what
But
a
yeah,
story, huh?
but that was a time when I just would leave people alone, and I loved hanging. But I would then leave there and then go to Paradise Garage,
Oh, garage, yes,
Leon. Those are other legendary clubs that also made their
King
mark.
Street. Yeah, well,
But
Larry Levon, man, he was the man. I went to garage starting at 82, 83. That's when I started going. So I went towards the end. That's when, I think it closed in 87. So I went from like 82 to like 85.
yeah, but just
Uh,
imagine that the generation that came in after you, they didn't
yeah,
experience that because the
yeah.
clubs all started to disappear
Oh, yeah.
going
Yeah.
into the
That's so true.
90s. You know,
That is so true. Yeah. I mean, I went to, we used to hang out at the fun house with Jelly Bean, then go to the loft, and then go to the garage, go to Roxy's, Bonds
oh,
International,
Roxy,
Roseland,
yeah.
the Copacabana.
Well,
I
the
mean,
thing is,
I hit all the clubs back then, back in the 80s.
the thing about the funhouse is that if you were hanging out with Jelly and all the and that clique or whatever,
Yes.
um, everyone would always like start. You would hear the talk. Okay, we're gonna bounce from here. We're gonna go to so and so.
Yeah.
So there were times when I was really feeling like I needed to just stay and hang, even though I hated daylight coming. I would go out after that to other places like the gallery, the loft. They
The
make those,
loft. Yeah, that was our spot. That was our after
yeah.
hours spot, the loft. Yeah. We used to
So
hit
did
there.
you know Nicky
We went
Siano
to the
who
club. We
owned
used
the
to go to the loft.
gallery? Did you
Yeah.
know Nicky Siano? Nicky
Well, no,
Siano?
well, that's before my time, but my cousins, my older cousins and my uncles, they all hanged out there. I mean,
Okay.
that's their era. I remember the stories they used to tell me when they came home, all the wild things that they did in those clubs. I started clubbing back in 82 when I started going to high school. I think it was my sophomore year. That's when I started hanging. I was 6 feet tall, so I looked like I was 21. So
So
I
that
started
was it.
so
Well,
I started going to all the clubs back then. I mean, and like I said, and it was one of my favorite clubs was Studio because I always wanted to go to Studio 54. So when I heard that they reopened, that was the first spot I wanted to hit, man. I got in there and I just partied like it was 1978.
no, but the thing is that when studio reopened, then it brought in. It still celebrated disco, but then freestyle really
Yes,
got big,
yes,
really became big
yeah,
at studio.
yeah,
And so you had the likes of a lot of freestyle artists that were there. So then the second generation, like yourself, started to really hang in there and make a mark for themselves. We're gonna take a quick break, ladies and gentlemen. We are here with DJ Apaza, Dennis. I call him Dennis because we're friends, and we'll be right back. Thank you for watching. Don't go away. Welcome back to the Disco Chronicles. I'm your host, Felipe Rose, and I am continuing my conversation with DJ Apaza, who's in Atlanta, hot
yes.
Atlanta. And I
Yes.
need to put my glasses on and say, okay, there we go. Well, tell us about your Apaza Entertainment, the services that you provide.
Well, like I said, it began in New York, but I was living in Jersey before I moved to Atlanta. So it began as, doing mixtapes and mix CDs. And then once I moved to Atlanta, it became more of a recording studio and production. And then went to promoting acts and doing shows and doing festivals and concerts for the Latin, salsa, merengue, bachata, which was, it was big back then, So
Yeah, but
that's what
Bachacha's
I
big.
transitioned to.
Yeah, Bachacha's big, and
Bachata
also
was, yeah,
you know I also
it was
love.
starting off then, but now it's huge.
Yeah, I love Ramos Santos. I love Bad Bunny. I've been playing a lot of
Yeah,
his music. He's quite an interesting artist. He's amazing. You know.
yeah. Well, and that's the thing. When I started my Apaza Entertainment company, I also started a radio show called La Vieja Guardia Show, and it was one of the first internet shows that actually had a worldwide audience. And it was new. Because now you didn't have to get an antenna. Like the old school days. And have a what 15,
And
50,
I
50
knew
mile
you go
radius.
there.
50-mile radius of people. Now with the internet, you was worldwide. So it was
And
it was
antenna,
something
you mean
new.
the rabbits? The rabbit.
Yeah, Remember, I mean, back in the radio station days, they had the antenna and they had an audience of 50-mile radius, and that's it. That's all you could cover. But with the internet, I had a radio station that was worldwide. I had a worldwide audience that I never had before. So I took that and started promoting the urban artists that you're talking about, like people like, reggaeton and bachata and hip hop, Latin hip hop. So I was one of the first ones to actually promote that music. And it became, it was starting out in 2007, 2008. So I helped it to the point that when 2010 came and Daddy Yankee came with that song Gasolina, it
I
changed the
love
whole
that
game. I
song.
mean, it just blew up reggaeton. It made it mainstream. But I'm glad that I could say that I was part of the beginning of it, of promoting that music back when it wasn't that popular. It was local, it was only here in the US and the Caribbean. But, once the radio station and promoting, and I also, was part of the Wu Latino record label, and as a DJ, and I created mixtapes for them. So what I did, I used my radio show to actually cast a lot of the groups, the international, kind of send me the demos. And I told them, I was going to put them on CDs and kind of promote them, and got
Yeah.
thousands of demos from all over the world. I mean, incredible. I mean, it was just worldwide. Something that we didn't see before then. And I'm glad that now, like you can say, Bad Bunny, he's one of the biggest superstars in the world. And his music is reggaeton and Spanish hip hop.
Well, it's
That's what he
everything.
does.
Pretty
He's one of
much
the biggest
everything.
artists in the world right now. It's huge.
Yeah, he's
So
amazing.
it's gone a long way.
I hope to run into him someday so I could ask him. So you like disco?
I don't
He
think so.
probably did. He probably he
He's not
probably
from
did.
that generation. I don't think so.
No, you never know. You never know. Because I mean, the thing about disco is that while there are people that profess that they never liked it, there's always one song that gets them, and I can speak because I know this. It's always YMCA that gets that closeted rock and roller to jump up and start doing, So while there are many people that say, "Oh no, I don't like this," although or back in the day, when they hear it, they jump up and they dance to it.
Oh, to this day, I mean, they play it every. YMCA is an anthem.
Can you imagine? I
Anywhere
mean,
you
the
go.
people that is still play. I hear it everywhere now.
It's been like that since it came out. For the thing.
Cha-ching! Cha-ching! Cha-ching!
I'm pretty sure you're sick of hearing it already.
No, actually, no, cha-ching, no. No, not at all. So listen, I want to thank you for being on the show today. Today with you and there's another DJ, another longtime friend of mine from Florida, and then we're celebrating Freestyle Month here on the Disco Chronicles. We'll have Artie Rodriguez. He was one of my producers. He's my compadre. I'm the godfather of his son, his daughter, and then he also ended up being one of my studio recording engineers. But he now finally put out an album of his own,
Awesome.
freestyle album. Then there's another guy, Alex Zuinga, and then of course we're gonna have Tony Moran that used to be with the Latin Rascals.
Yeah, absolutely. I know
You
him
know,
too.
Tony Moran DJs
Yes,
internationally.
yes.
He's huge
Well
around the
known.
world. But
Yes.
he just dropped an album with Will Valentine, and it went to number one.
Okay.
We're celebrating Freestyle Month and DJs. So I want to thank you. Where can our listeners find you on the
Well,
Disco
they could
Chronicles?
actually go to my website, apazaentertainment.com, where I have all my mixes. I have flash drives for sale. I have videos. I sometimes go live, and it's massive. I mean, you see my Facebook page. I got over 150,000 followers.
I'm one of
Hardcore
them.
followers, man. And I know you wanted them. Thank you so much for being a
I
celebrity
get
follower.
your alerts. I get your alerts when they come on.
Yeah, it's incredible the amount of people that follow me. I mean, hardcore. They wait for me to actually drop a song, and then it just gets like 1,000 views and 1,000 comments, and it just blows up. So I thank everyone on Facebook who's listening right now. Thank you so much. Thank you for the support and the love that you've given me, and I'll keep posting the best music.
You're an interesting cat because when you're mixing, you don't talk a lot. You talk a little. Then you play.
Yes.
Well,
I learned that from the old DJs. See, I'm an old school DJ. I learned that from Jelly Bean, from Little Louis Vega, from DJ Bobby. I mean, these guys are from the Bronx, like I am. So I mean, I learned that you let the music speak for itself. The mix. You don't have to be the mouthpiece of your music of your mix. So that's what I do. I obviously, I mention my name maybe once or twice in the mix. And my mix is like an hour and a half long. And you'll hear my name maybe once or twice. But the rest of the time, it's just music. And I think that's the way it should be.
Like I said, I found you, and on weekends, I would just leave you on live and just blast the mix.
Thank you so much. That means the world to me, Felipe. Thank you so much, man.
It helped me get through the pandemic, you and several others that were entertaining everybody. I, unfortunately, didn't have the umbrellas and the lights and all this stuff in the house because I always worked either at a studio or a rehearsal hall. So then suddenly, I'm in lockdown and I had nothing. So Estella helped me order things on Amazon and on Guitar Center, microphones, screens, all that stuff. I mean, I always had it. I always had it when I was with the group on the road, but it was the road manager that would carry all that equipment in the cases. So then suddenly here I am ordering everything, and then I'm frustrated because nothing was arriving in time. So I asked her, where's this stuff coming from? And she said, everything's coming from China. So we're in a lockdown. You have to wait till you get your equipment.
That's funny.
So everything was arriving little by little. But this podcast show was born from the lockdown pandemic.
Well, I'm glad that I was part of it. Thank you for the invitation. It's been an honor talking to you. And I keep enjoying my music. Again, I'll go ahead and send you one of my USB flash drives with all my 50 mixes so you can keep jamming at home. Okay. And like I said, I'll probably be in New York in the month of June. So maybe I'll give you a call and we can have lunch or something.
Do that. And the little guy that plays the piano?
Yes, my son. Yeah.
He'll be with you?
I believe no, because I'm going for business. So I don't think he will be with me this time. So, but maybe next time when he comes, I'll go ahead and let you meet him.
Well, then do hit me up so we can do a runaround.
Absolutely, I will. Thank you so much, Felipe. Thank you for the opportunity to be in your show.
Yes, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to the Disco Chronicles on Spotify and Anchor FM. I want to thank DJ Apaza for being on the show today.